Hey everybody, Robert with RC Archery. You're watching Tuesday's Tip of the Week number 95. In this week's video, we're gonna go over fine-tuning our draw length, what we're looking for, how the loop actually affects this as well. And then in our members video this week, we're gonna go a little bit further on this. We're gonna talk about holding weight and stabilizer setup and what that can affect as far as when we're fine-tuning our draw lengths as well. When it comes to fine-tuning draw length, we are actually looking at a two-part equation. A lot of people think just setting the bow's draw length with the mod positioning or draw stops and all of that is all you're looking at. And in reality, that's only half the equation. And really, I mean, it's a very big part of it, but it's honestly, in my opinion, not the biggest part. I actually think that adjusting on our loop length and how long that is and the leverage we have over it actually is gonna help you a lot more in the long run than just setting up a draw length and thinking that you're okay. So when we are looking at this, we've already gotten a lot of things out of the way when we're setting up just basic draw lengths for our bow. I've done a video over this. I will link that here so that you can watch that and look at it. But today we're gonna get into just the fine details of the end part of what we're doing. Now, when it comes to fine-tuning just the draw length of the bow, what we're looking for there is a steadiest position for us with our shoulder on the bow side. So the arm that is holding the bow. So we are gonna do some minute changes, and everybody, this is gonna mean a little differently to everybody. Everybody's a little different here as far as where you're at in your archery journey, if you're starting out, if you're intermediate, if you're advanced, all of that, right? When I'm fine-tuning my draw length, I'm looking at it in minimal amounts of adjustments in my cables where I may be one twist or a half a twist or some variation of that. So very, very small details there, but you may be adjusting it by half an inch. You may be an inch off. It can be a lot of things. If you're just starting out, maybe a pro shop set you up, or you just had a bow that you bought and it was set up for you. So what we're looking for with this is being able to look through our sight picture and also correlate that with how it feels. So if the bow feels heavy and the sight picture is wavy and we can't really feel like we control it, maybe the arm feels a little disconnected, that's a sign that our draw length is too long. Now, in reverse to that, when our draw length gets too short, our shoulder will actually scrunch up, shoulder blade gets pushed over towards the spine a lot more, and then it can create some different variances on sight pictures. You may see some bobbing up and down more because we can't get that shoulder seated. Obviously, faster, twitchier movements can happen. And then you may notice that when your shot breaks, you're actually missing left a lot because you have enough excess room to extend the arm and extend the shoulder out, and you swing the bow to the left. So those are some areas to keep in mind. Now, if you're too long and that waviness is there, you need to bring that down as well. So keep in mind when we're adjusting the draw length of the bow itself, we are generally doing that for the fitment of the shoulder and how that joint is actually being supported within itself. Now, the second part of this equation is the loop length. The loop length controls the positioning and the height of our rear arm's elbow. And what I like to explain to people and how I look at this is think of that elbow as a lever. And that lever has leverage over the bow as to how you hold it up on target. If you are too long on your loop length, for one, your hand's gonna feel kind of separated from your anchor point. It feels a little bit bad. I suggest for a lot of people to anchor with these mid knuckles here. Don't try to anchor with the base knuckles. For a lot of people's anatomy, the way that our arms links are set up between shoulder to elbow and elbow to wrist and hand, this anchor point here on our fingers allows us to get the rear shoulder set down better, and it allows you to get back here at a better angle. So a lot of people get really short here because they feel like they have to anchor with the back of their hand. I wouldn't personally do that, especially if you're changing how you grip the release from one shot to the next, one day to the next. If you're a little bit more with a fist or a little bit less with a fist, you're directly changing the way that you're anchoring on your face, and it can mess up your left and rights, your peep alignment with your scope and other stuff like that more than if we're just using these knuckles here on the end of the hand. So again, if you're too long, you don't have enough leverage over the bow. The bow is again gonna feel heavy and kind of wavy. Now you may notice that it's not as drastic as when the draw length is too long, because we have good shoulder support with the draw length being set correctly at that point. But when you go to pull and expand through your shot and try to create tension within your shot, you'll notice that it actually will break down. You'll feel like the bow gets heavier, you'll feel like the sight picture gets wavier and bigger, and there's swoops to it, and you may not can control everything as much. That means definitely shorten the loop length. Now, in reverse to that, if we have too short of a loop length, your elbow is too high, this shoulder can't seat down, it's gonna be kind of brought forward, and it's gonna create some problems there, and you're also gonna have a ton of leverage over the bow. And in an extreme case with the elbow being too high, as you start to pull on the bow, because your elbow is way up here, you'll actually pull upwards on the D loop, driving the bow down. It causes problems. But even on a shorter side to this, or a lesser extent to this, on the short side rather, you'll actually notice that you have too much leverage over the bow, and any kind of movement that you make, you can really pull the bow off target. You may notice you get bigger, wider misses sometimes. So you may be pulling through your shot like normal, but you may, jerk, move, go too quickly, something happens on the back end and you pull yourself off target, and instead of missing by a little bit, you miss by a lot. So in those scenarios, try lengthening that loop. And there really isn't, when it comes to this, this is very specific to shot style. If you pull through your shot, if you have limb stops, you have cable stops, that give more or less, all kinds of things. It's very specific to you. So just make sure that when you're adjusting that loop length, don't be afraid to adjust it 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, longer or shorter. The parameters that I set forth for people is generally you don't want to be below 1/2 an inch in length when you measure from the back of the string to the inside of the loop where you're actually hooking the release to it, and you don't want that loop usually longer than 1 inch. There has been some cases where I've seen people need longer than 1 inch on a loop, but it's not normal. So staying in those parameters. You want to try something out and you have no clue where to make the loop length and what to look at it on, set it at 3/4 of an inch. That's a really good starting point for most people, and then you can adjust it from there based off the length of your release and how you're holding it and the way that you're shooting. Some quick tips that I'll give you that makes life a lot easier. Get yourself a digital caliper. I got this from Home Depot, it's Husky brand. It wasn't super expensive, but it works really well. So get that. It makes your life a lot easier when it comes to measuring your D loop and then trying to be precise with it from one step to the other. The other thing that I will tell you is if you want to cut the length of the D loop at once, you can. Just find a way to measure it, and then you can adjust that based off of what you're seeing on length that you need, and then you'll know when you need to change out your D loop or whatever you're going with. You'll know how long that you need to cut one to be able to remake that. Some people don't like to do that. Some people actually tie the top knot on here. They leave a longer strand of D loop, tie the bottom, get it to the length that they want, and then cut it. And that's okay. If you want to do it that way, there's nothing wrong with that. But these are just some tricks that I've used and things that I've done over time. Makes it a lot easier and a lot better for you. Also get a good set of D loop pliers. I have this from Easton. It's multi-tool, but you can use it for D loops. It's got these little notches built into it here. Hopefully that shows up. And then, there's some other tools that, you can actually squeeze on the pliers. It opens up the D loop. Don't overdo it when you're doing this, especially if you think you need to be able to change it later on. You can separate your serving on your center serving by doing this, so just a heads up. D loop material that I'm using is a BCY 2.0 D loop material. I like that one a lot. It's thin, doesn't have a lot of give to it, doesn't really stretch once I get it put on there. It seems to tie really well and be really consistent over time. Thank y'all for watching this video. If you're not a member of the channel and you want to be, there's information down in the description of this video that tells you what you get with it. You get some access to me with coaching, one of the packages, and you also get access to videos as well. So thank y'all again. I'll see you soon.